Now, we could not really have Paula's Marathon Run Club building up to the London Marathon without having at some point the CEO of the London Marathon events, Hugh Brasher, come along and give us his thoughts and his top tips and advice. So I appreciate it's a very busy schedule for you, Hugh. Thank you very much for squeezing in the time to come on and talk to us. This is going out in week 11, so it's getting close now, but we're also still in the really hard work stage of the marathon. And what we're hoping to do in this episode is give the runners just a little bit of insight of the best advice from the person best placed to give that great advice on race day in terms of how they should be thinking ahead to that at this point, and also start waking up that excitement a little bit. The hard work's done, the hard slog's been put in, you're in the middle of it now, and Hugh's going to make you really look forward to the party at the end of all of that training, the race day itself. Welcome, Hugh, and thank you.
Delighted to be here. I've been listening to you and heard you on the Chris Evans show, both of you recently.
Awesome.
So it's not long to go now, and just really hope that those people who are listening and running on the 27th of April are going to get even more excited about what is going to be truly one of the greatest days of their lives.
Brilliant. Now, take us back right to the beginning, Hugh. 1981, when the race absolutely first started. I think it was still at the end of March then, wasn't it?
It was March the 29th, 1981. Yeah, absolutely. And I was 15 years old.
Oh, so were you roped out there to help set up?
I was roped out to help sell the train tickets at the bottom of the steps in the locker room, in the coat room of the Strand Palace Hotel. So it was Easter holidays, proved that Easter must have been earlier that year. And basically nowadays, as the runners, when you pick your running number up at the running show, that number gets you free train travel on to get you to the start. Well, in those days, you had to pay 50p to get a train ticket to the start, and I was the person that sold 6,300 train tickets for 50p each in the cloakroom at the Strand Palace Hotel.
Wow.
That is brilliant.
What a story.
But just for background info, of course, for those listeners who don't know, it was Hugh's father, Sir Chris Brasher, along with John Disley, who started that first race. And I remember when I attended the funeral of John Disley, Hugh, they talked about the thought that went into planning the route and why the route takes the route that it does. Can you fill us in a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think my father and John. By the way, he wasn't knighted. He was a CBE. But
Oh, sorry, I have elevated him. He should have been.
Yeah.
Possibly. He and John went to the New York City Marathon in 1979, and I always say that with all good stories or with all good things, that these things start in a pub, and it was very much a pub conversation where some of his fellow Ranelagh Harriers, that was the club that my father joined. He later joined Thames Hare and Hounds, but he was Ranelagh Harriers at the start, and they persuaded him that he should go to the New York City Marathon. And in all honesty, that was, running 26.2 miles on the road was my father's idea of purgatory. He loved the mountains. He was a mountaineer. He was a conservationist. He wrote in the 1970s and 80s, he wrote an article once a month in the Observer called Breath of Fresh Air. And it was all about conservation and how we needed to protect this sceptred isle, I think was one of the phrases that he used. So anyway, they got persuaded to go to the New York City Marathon, and it was him and John Disley. And John Disley, was a bronze medalist at the steeplechase in 1956, 4 years, and 1952, John was, 4 years before my father's Olympic gold. And they were really good friends. John had helped my father qualify for the Olympics. He'd paced him to do the time. They go to New York, and my father said he had an epiphany. And it was like Saul on the road to Damascus. That this sort of light bulb moment came across, and they saw what then was the gun crime capital city of the world come together, and that 1 million people were crowding the streets of New York, cheering on 20,000 runners, achieving something that is fairly mad, which was running 26.2 miles. And really, the course was not about my father. The course was about John Disley. And John was an absolute operational genius. My father was the person that would sort of bang on doors and charge straight through them, whereas John just laid things out. And he knew that if he hugged the Thames, that he could come. He had this course, and incredibly, it hasn't really changed that much. We do change it each year. There is a small change this year, through Canary Wharf. So there are little changes that happen each year, but fundamentally it's changed the same. And that is an incredible testament to John's foresight and planning that he had. He really was amazing at it.
One of the origins of London Marathon, I'm proud to say, I was born 19 days later after the first one, and it's in my bathroom. The year I was born, and it's highlights of things that happened that year. In London Marathon, the first one is on there in my bathroom, and it's a very cool thing to sort of age with London Marathon at the same rate. It's quite a nice thing.
It does make you feel old, though, Hugh, when you realise that you were watching the Star Wars films that came out that year.
Yeah. So we had, and you'll know better than I, but we through it was that year there were around just over 7,000 that started, just over 6,000 that finished, and now it's up to roughly 46,000 athletes competing. Or no, he's shaking his head. I'm wrong. Go
More than that.
Okay, yeah. That's why you're here, to tell us the truth. What's going? That's why we brought you on.
Last year it was roughly 53,875, roughly. We actually, one of the things that we've done, with the back of the pack, we've tried to ensure that we can encourage people and allow people the most possible time. So we open a secondary finish line after 7:30 in St James's Park. And last year that shut at normally it should shut at midnight, and the team kept it open to 10 past midnight for the last runner, who was a guy called Fred, who I think was in his 90s and was running in memory of his daughter, who had died 40 years previous. And you just can't, you can't shut a finish line when you understand what it means to somebody running and the memories that it has for him. And yeah, the team kept it open. And, yes, it's amazing that we had that number of people. And incredibly, it is now less crowded due to crowd management and various other things. There's a new start happening in 2025. I always have to remember what year I'm in. So I'm usually working quite a few years ahead. But this year in 2025, there's a new start. There's a fourth start. And runners have just been going out. We've been emailing them the last few days. It's a green start, a new green start in terms of no baggage buses. And it's now less crowded. The course is we believe it'll be more than 5,000. We think it'll be around about 57,000 finishers, which should make it a world record number of finishers. But it's now less crowded than it was in 2019 because of all the work that the team have done, and with a brilliant crowd management guy called Marcel Altenberg at Manchester Metropolitan University. Always have to get the Metropolitan in, because they told me off once for calling it Manchester University.
Well, there's lots of metropolitan help throughout the day, isn't there, Hugh? And I know that the London Marathon, as it is, could not happen without the support of the City of London, of the Metropolitan Police Force, and everybody else that comes into effect. And I'm not sure whether you actually are the best person to answer this question, but I'm sure your advice does stand up there for those people heading out to the start on Blackheath, depending on which start they're in. What is the best time that they should look at trying to arrive there, so they're not stressed, so they can go through all of the routines of dropping your kit off if you are doing that, of following the waves as they move through to the start? Is there an ideal time that they should do that to be stress-free?
The ideal time is the time that works for them. I tend to get to the start about 6:30 in the morning, and I find it quite incredible. You've got some people there then, but that's what works for them. For me, it would all be about getting there. What we give people is a load time, the time they're getting loaded into the pen, and then the time they'll move forward, and the time they'll start. And they're down to seconds and minutes, because that's how accurate it should be. I would always leave an absolute minimum of an hour before your load time. One of the biggest things is nerves. You will be unbelievably nervous on the day, and nerves make you go to the loo. It's as simple as that. So you're going to want to make yourself as light as possible. Just think about that. That's always what I used to think about. There are urinals. There are a huge number of loos. I think it's close to 1,500 sit-down loos. There are peakals, which are female urinals. There are male urinals. So yeah, make sure I would do at least an hour, but you should do it at the time that's right for you. And the biggest thing you should do is eat your normal food that you before you go training. Try and make sure the race this year starts at 9:30, doesn't start at 10. This is the mass event. So you need to work back about when is the best time for yourself to eat. What's the food that you have? I always have a great story about a really good friend of mine. I was best man at his wedding and vice versa. And he did a master's in nutrition. So you'd think he'd know what he was talking about. He decided on the day that he would change everything that he'd eaten and everything that he'd drunk on the day of the marathon, and absolutely imploded on the mile. And I had to rescue him after the finish line and get him out of loo, where he was basically cramping up and as white as a sheet. But yeah, just try and do your normal stuff as much as you can.
That's good advice, you. And into that question around the fueling and stuff, what kind of things can athletes expect from a hydration and fueling on the course, and it may be in the start area? What kind of extra stuff other than what they bring themselves is there available?
Well, honestly, I would be bringing what your routine is. What we have on course is Lucozade. Any glucose drink you need to practice with before. So if
Right.
you are going to take that Lucozade, you need to practice Lucozade sport. You need to practice it with before, because high doses of glucose will upset your stomach. And it's by training your stomach that you can get used to it. And look, I've done the last time I ran the London Marathon was in 2003, and the first time was in 1983. And I'm going to run it in 2030, by the way. It's going to be the next time I'm going to run it. But I always remember that glucose, that Lucozade, for me, it tasted terrible at the first 5 miles. By about mile 17, mile 20, oh my God, it tasted like nectar. Because your body is just going through all these changes. So yeah, take what you think is right for you and just try and relax. You are going to be nerves. Nerves are good. They're not a bad thing. They're a positive thing. But then the other number one piece is do not go off too quick. It's
Yeah.
a fast downhill. The mile between 2 and a bit and 3 and a bit is pretty well a mile downhill before you turn left at the bottom of Shooter's Hill. It's called Hill for a reason. It's very tempting with the adrenaline coursing through those nerves to think, oh, if you're a little bit behind your time, oh, I must make it up. No, you don't. You honestly, that second half, I mean, Paula, you've said this so often.
Yeah.
The marathon starts at mile 20. Halfway is mile 20. It's not mile 13.1. So just relax, calm your breathing, smile. Just remember you are enjoying yourself. And it will be an amazing day.
Yeah, I know, I'm sure. And there are gels available on the course as well, aren't there? As well
Yeah.
as the drinks.
There absolutely are gel stations also available on course. It takes time for these drinks to get in your system. With the gels, you need to take water with them as well. Their position. There's water pretty well every 2 to 3 miles on the course. It's little and often. It's not glugging huge amounts. It's taking those gels before you think you need them. By the time you've needed them, it's probably too late. They're not in your system. That 20 minutes is going to take. There's enough time to trial the things now in your longer runs. Try the food that you're going to want to have. Try that now.
And the gels are Lucozade gels out
The
there.
gels are Lucozade gels.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you know that, you can stock up ahead of time and practice with those. So you mentioned you're out to the start at 6:30. I'm guessing your day does not end until a while after that final finisher has crossed the line. So it is a long day out there, and you've seen it evolve a lot since that very first day back in end of March 1981. What have been the biggest changes, and what is your best moment of that day?
Well, I think one of the best moments of the day is seeing the sun rise coming up over Canary Wharf. If you walk down the end of the Red Start, which is by the Greenwich Observatory, and you can look out, you can see the Cutty Sark at mile 6 or 10K. You can see Canary Wharf, and the sun is coming up, and there's really no one there. There's me. I generally have a couple of runners with me, people who, if need to go off and do things, that they're often some great people from other races, race directors who just want to see what we're doing. And it's a real moment of stillness. It's a moment of beauty. And that's probably my moment of the day. And I think just what the team have done in terms of how they have improved the event, the accessibility, the number of duos that we now have taking part, the quality of the start, the finish. If Paula, with all your commentary, you probably don't manage to get into hospitality. What the team have managed to do. There's some amazing this year new sponsor Radox, and there are VIP showers sponsored by Radox. So Radox showers that you can have. There they can have a sports massage. They can get their medal engraved. There's lots of things. There's so many things going on. But it's just that finish line, the joy, the tears. It's an incredible emotional day where there are so many people running for a reason that is so close to their heart. And, that can be doing a PB, that can be remembering, their father, their daughter, their best friend, but you're just bringing humanity together in a way that we need to be brought together, and in a way that the media tries to separate us, the way that politics tries to separate us. We are not different. We are actually more similar each other. And you will go through some bad patches on that stage, and people next to you will go through a bad patch. Reach out, help them, because they in turn will help you. And that's what makes the marathon such an incredible day.
So
I'm getting ready to start now.
Yeah, this is why you're great to have on, because this is what we wanted to do, is to build up that excitement that everyone's going to feel on the day. And I think you're putting it so well how everyone feels like as an elite being in that race, as someone who's had my mother run in 6 hours round and people raising money, but just the way that London comes together in that moment. And you're absolutely right. I love waking up the morning of London Marathon, that stillness, and what's about to come. But I just wondered if you could carry on that theme in terms of how spectators, and as me and Paula, when we were talking about the heroes of the day that helped put it on, and the team and everyone and the runners, how everyone comes together to make it a special day that's on and off the course. Because that's one of the things that always blows my mind about London is there's never a quiet spot. It's noise. It's so, you're talking 5-6 people deep at a minimum all the way round, just constantly yelling, constantly shouting, constantly cheering. And they don't just stop for the elites, it's for everyone. But just how for you as someone that built this, is how awesome that is, and how you would describe that in your own words.
Yeah, look, it's the crowd, the charities. It's that color, that the marathon. The fancy dress costumes. It's unique. It is uniquely British, yet it's uniquely international. There are tens of thousands of people. I mean, it's incredible. We had 840,000 people apply to run this year.
Wow.
170,000 of those were international, 55,000 people from America alone. We're more popular than the next 5 Abbott World Marathon major races put together, which is incredible to say. And it is that feeling. And I would actually say, Chris, that your mum probably got more cheers than you did, because there are more people. There are more people out watching, people who it's harder to run 6 hours for a marathon than
it is.
What's your PB? 208, 209?
I did 210, but yeah, we'll go with 28. That's what I should have done. Yeah, okay. That's right. Yeah.
So it's harder to do that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
To run 6 hours, because you're on your feet for that long. They need the support. And the average runner brings, is a bit of statistics. The average runner brings 5.4 people to watch them. Obviously, you can't bring a 0.4, but it's the average. And they go on average to 2.2 locations around the course. And again, this is John's genius. John did his genius, the course, designing it around tubes and stations that you can get to so people can move around. And Docklands Light Railway wasn't around when John designed the course, but that's helped. And we now have more movements more people take Dockland Light Railway on the day of the marathon than even in London 2012. And it is just the logistics of what the team have to go through, and the crowd modeling, and to try and allow people to see their runners. I mean, the TCS London Marathon app for people watching, really important. That will predict where your runners are, or if they're running with a watch and they turn running with a phone, and they turn the GPS on, it will be very, very accurate as to where they are. But yeah, I'm already feeling my neck because last time I was watching someone, you're moving your head so much because you're trying to make sure that you've seen them. And so my tip for a spectator is bring something unique that is you can hold up high, whether it's a balloon or something,
Mhm.
and then the runner will see you. It's easier for them to see you if you've got something slightly crazy than it is for you to see them.
And Hugh, there are so many reasons to be proud to be British on London Marathon Day. I mean, I'm sure your dad would be delighted to know it's the cleanest day of the year in London every single year because we're taking the cars off the streets and getting out there running. It also holds the Guinness World Record for the single largest amount raised for charity in any single one day. That was beaten in 2024, may well be beaten again this year. Do you want to fill us in on the headline charity for this year?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's something very close to my heart. It's pancreatic cancer, and pancreatic cancer UK, which is the disease that my father died from. And it is a really terrible disease in terms of the speed from a diagnosis to death. The case of my father, it was 6 months. For so many people, it's even shorter. So just implore people, if they know someone running the marathon, or just go to pancreatic cancer and donate some money to them. It's what makes the London Marathon so incredible. It is now over 1.3 billion. I mean, it's just incredible. £1 billion raised for good causes by the runners. And that's the incredible thing. There are so many unbelievable causes that people are running for. And, we know that running does so much good for people's physical and mental health. And again, we've just got so many negative things going on in the world that the media want to portray. This is one of the most positive days. And, we've got the most incredible field of athletes, elite
Ridiculous.
athletes
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Paula,
Yeah.
your world record stood for 19 years, I think it was.
Yeah, no, it's 17, 16 and a half for the actual one from London. 17
Right.
years I held it.
It is just, for three women who have done sub 2:14. That women's race is going to be, I've been saying, I think for the last 3 years, it's been quite embarrassing. This is the greatest women's field ever assembled. And now we've gone and trumped it even further. And,
For sure.
yeah, and then what Jacob Kiplimo did the other day in Barcelona, going sub 57 minutes for a half marathon.
Can he break two Can he break two at London?
Look, he has to be someone that is
Yeah.
able to do it, right? We were part of London Marathon with the operational team behind Eliud Kipchoge's Ineos 159. So we know so many different elements that went into it, really looking at the detail, looking at the science of how you can try and improve the course and various things. I think to ask someone to do it on their debut is probably a step too far, but is he capable of doing it? Paul is going, not for.
Yeah, I'm just thinking he's got nothing to lose. He's coming in there with a certain amount of expectation because he has run 56 minutes for the half marathon. So of course there's going to be expectation. But a lot of the top marathon guys, especially the quality of that field, are going to look at him and say, he's going to be learning on this one. So if he does something crazy and goes out, he might just hold on, and they can't take that risk now. So yeah, I think he's got it all to play with, but yeah, he needs to maybe grow a little bit with experience. But I think it is a mouthwatering. And if we were to put you on the spot and ask you, are we going to get the fast times, or are we going to get the really exciting races, or are we actually going to get both? Although that is
Good question.
doesn't generally happen, does it? I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you who's going to come out on top, because I think it's so dense and it's such a high quality field that's impossible to do. You're just guessing in the dark. But will they work together for a fast time, or will we just see nail biting action to the end?
I honestly think this is going to be a bit of a cop out, and then I'll give a second answer. I think the weather will determine what they do. So I think that you know what that wind can be like coming off the Thames, coming down the embankment. I mean, that's one of the weird things about the London Marathon, is because you run alongside the Thames, the height of the tide and whether it's coming in or going out changes the wind direction and can strengthen or make the wind less. So there are various elements that are slightly outside our control. But I think that if weather conditions are good, I do expect him to do something extraordinary, and something that whether he goes through halfway in a reasonable time, and then just decides to take off, I think is very, very possible, and I'd probably go even probable.
And for anybody listening, that is actually the smart way to run it anyway, isn't it? To sit back through that first half and then to close. Doesn't matter if you're running 6 hours or if you're just trying to break 2. It's still the smartest advice to do it that way.
You're an absolute star here. Well, we know you've got a hard cut off, and thank you so much. As a last sentence, you're running all right? Got anything? Are you going okay?
Yeah. I've got a crazy. I just turned 60, and I've got a crazy idea, which is I want to try and run a sub 5-minute mile on the road.
Nice.
I started this I did the Fifth Avenue Mile, I think it was in 2019, and I was 55, and I ran 5:07 without having done a single bit of track training. So I thought if I do some track training, then maybe I can do it. My 11-year-old, she just loves doing track sessions. Don't ask me why. She loves doing track sessions. And I started doing a couple with her, and I've had a bit of a health issue, and that's now sorted out. And so anyway, I made this plan as one of my New Year's resolutions. There's a few of them. One was going to date night with my wife every month, but
that's a good one.
That's in the diary. But and then I found out, unfortunately, unfortunately not, but it turns out that if I do break 5 minutes for a mile on the road, it's an over 60 British record.
Oh wow!
Excellent.
So I'm just going with the process. I'm just going to see what happens. But look, it's great to have goals, whatever your age.
Yeah,
whatever,
for sure. Here's a thought, Hugh. Why don't you throw it in before or after the mini? You get all that support along the mile.
Yeah, no, we do the Vitality Westminster Mile. So I've got
okay.
Naps in September, and I'm starting on the track properly in May. There's a plan here, Paula.
We thought about
me with all your contacts and all the advice. You have got a top quality training plan to break that mile.
Yes, and some good athletes to pace me maybe in
a
particular formation that maybe in.
Tomo, back into training quick.
I need to get out the door.
Yes, both of you. What are you doing on September the 28th? You could join me.
That is the day before my son's birthday.
I mean, he's come on the podcast. We do owe him, Paula. We do owe him.
We do. I'm just not sure I can run that fast anymore.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Hugh. We are very proud to partner with Children with Cancer UK to bring you this special series. We have just heard from Hugh Brasher about the headline charity this year, Pancreatic Cancer UK. So very best of luck to all of those runners out there, raising huge amounts and creating a huge amount of awareness and goodwill, and of course raising those funds for those charities. In each episode, we do take a moment to share personal stories of courage, to explore the challenges faced by those impacted by childhood cancer, and to highlight the incredible work being done to make a difference. Thank you for joining us as we shine a light on Children with Cancer UK.
Hi, I'm Becky, and I look after our amazing London Marathon team at Children with Cancer UK. We have one of the largest London Marathon teams out on the course on race day. And as part of our team, our amazing runners get access to our monthly online training calls, in-person training days, and support on the day at awesome cheer points. We also have a post-race party where you'll get a massage, hot food, and a hero's welcome. You're part of a community when you join our team. And if you're interested in running with us, you can apply when applications open on Marathon Weekend. Good luck to everyone running, and we can't wait to cheer you on.
Thank you. And to donate to Children with Cancer UK or to find out more about the incredible work that they do, there is a link in our description. Now that is, I'm afraid, all that we've got time for this week. Now it is less than 6 weeks to go to race day. Please don't forget to email us your questions to hello@paulasrunpod.com or on Instagram messages on @paulasrunpod. And Paula's Marathon Run Club is a Viral Tribe entertainment production. Stick with it through these hard last couple of weeks, and we will catch you next week.